Welcome to WagerTalk TV. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio with Bryan Leonard. Bryan, we're going to talk about betting online versus betting right here in Vegas at the sports books, either in person or on our apps here. First off, explain to our listeners what the difference are between Vegas and betting online.
Okay. There's basically four ways you could do this. Number one, if you're playing in Vegas, you can get an app and you can bet on the app. The app limits you 500, 1,000, depending on where you're playing. Or you can go into each of the sports books and bet inside the sports book. So that's two variances. Playing offshore, there's also two. Number one is you send money offshore and you're betting into that on money that you've already put up. Or a lot of places will have agents, and basically when you're with an agent, you have a settle number, being 5,000, 3,000, 10,000, whatever it is, and you settle at that number. It's sort of like having your local bookie, where at the end of the week you settle up with your local bookie. This, with the agents, you settle up at certain numbers. When you hit to that number, you settle up.
Now, is that a post up or a credit shop?
No, it's a credit shop.
Okay.
Which
Explain
is
the difference.
Which is the advantage of it. It's sort of like playing with, like I said, playing with your local bookie, where you don't have to give him the money ahead of time, but you settle either at the end of each week or at certain numbers. So there's different. We're actually looking at four different situations here.
All right. Now, there's pros and cons to all of them. All right. Obviously, the pro to betting offshore or at a credit shop, you're not taking that money out of your pocket, so you're betting with imaginary money, so to speak. But the flip side of that, real quick, of that being a pro is also the con of it too, because people that don't have proper discipline can get themselves into big trouble betting at a credit shop as opposed to betting here in Vegas, where all you can bet is what you can take to the window or what is in your app. So yes, you can still lose all of your money, what you have, but you're not going to lose all of your money and more, and then some, which that's what really gets people into problems.
Well, one of the problems when you post offshore is you really have a major outlay of the amount of money that you can set up. Nowadays, in the newer environment of the offshore, especially if you have Bitcoin, and it's easy to get Bitcoin, you can store your money in your wallet and have accounts at as many offshores as you want. Whichever one has the best line, you then send your money from Bitcoin from your wallet to the offshores and get that best number. And then you can withdraw the same thing. So you basically got an offshore bank that you could send out anywhere you want. That is the optimal way to do it. They didn't have that years ago, right, back when we used to play a lot of the offshore. You talked about with having the agents. Unfortunately, not every offshore sportsbook has an agent. There's only certain ones that have that. That's another one of the drawbacks. If you're playing in Las Vegas, I love the apps. The apps are great, but there's only have a certain limits to play on those. And we talked in another video about getting comps. You're not going to get comps on the offshores. You can get comps at certain places in Las Vegas. So it helps to build your situation at certain places. Now, normally, a lot of professional bettors will go in and play blackjack, they'll play some other things, just so they can get the highest rank in that casino, so they can bet more in the sports book. But with doing this, you can raise it up with your professional bets in sports. But the bad thing about going to a casino with a lot of money is, and we've all seen it, mostly they're runners working for the big guys. They walk into a casino with a backpack full of money. I don't know about you, but I'm always concerned about that situation. And I've talked to guys who have been runners. And if somebody scopes you out for 2 or 3 days, I talked to Crackman about this. He was on the show with Kelly, yep, and he's carrying around all that money on him. And he even said, I did it because they wanted me to do it. He goes, I don't do that in a normal situation. He goes, I don't run casino to casino to bet that with all this money. Because I told him, I said, now half of America knows what you look like. Yeah. And he, like us, he's a big guy. It's always a concern. That's the worst part about having to go into a casino, is worrying about the situation. Now, granted, I'm not going to say it never happens, but the chances are low because every cop in the city of Las Vegas is on the strip.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. Some of the tougher neighborhoods they're out there, but if you're in a nice neighborhood in Nevada, and you rarely see the cops are all down on the strip, so that's the one advantage.
The other advantage I'm going to point out for the offshore, where it is another advantage, if you are going to play futures, that is the way to do it, because you're making a wager that's going to be tied up for 6 months, and if you're doing it on a credit shop, that's fine, because it's not hurting your playable bankroll, and that's where one of the biggest pros are with it. And then the last thing I'm going to say here, and because we've had a lot of states legalizing, and the big thing that everybody always said, that we're opposed to legalizing sports betting is it's going to ruin families, people are going to lose their homes and everything. They always go to that extreme. Well, here's the thing, because it's legal, all these other places become just like Las Vegas. And as we said, you have to go to the window with the money. You can't lose money you don't have. You can lose everything you have, but you can't lose more. And there's less chance of people going totally broke. And there's a different thing of when you're walking to the window and you're making a wager for $1,100 to $1,000, and you're actually counting out $1,100 bills, as opposed to pushing a button and just saying 1,100, and there's no money involved. It's just the number that you're punching in. That's how you get in trouble.
Just two things. First off, your point about the futures with the agents, that should have been the number one point, and I apologize for that, because that is a free shot at it.
Yes.
And the second is, and for all those politicians out there, let's say you're in California. There's no sense right now for California not to have illegal sports betting. Everybody who wants to bet in California is betting with a local bookie. Mm-hmm. And they're betting money many times they don't have. That gets them in much more trouble than it is if they had it legalized, where you're only betting the money you have in the casino. So for any of those states that don't have it, you're looking at this the totally opposite way.
Absolutely. Hey guys, after your first purchase at WagerTalk, you'll get a $25 bonus in wager bucks. You can use that any way you like, spend it on any capper. After your first purchase, you get $25. That's our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk family. We'll be back with more here at WagerTalk TV.